Lovely. Hi, welcome back to Guitar Talk. Today is a continuation on what we did last week, finger picking. We decided to bring somebody that knows what he's doing. To my left is the picker whose musings you were just checking out, Mark Armstrong. Welcome, Mark.
Good afternoon.
And to my right, as always, is our guru and all-around wise guy, Stan Biankowitz. Welcome, Stan.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, what was that?
That was Little Martha by the
Little
Allman,
Martha.
by the
Okay.
Allman Brothers.
We didn't do the whole thing, so
No.
don't call us NAVSCAP or whatever that.
Of course, during the days of Godzilla, it was Little Mothra.
Little Mothra, and Rodan. So, in that particular picking, what would you call that type of picking that you did?
That's alternating picking.
That's alternate picking.
That's where the thumb is basically trying to do what the stride piano did with left hand and stride piano.
Okay.
So that's the steady part. That's the pulse of the piece. That's the bass line. And then what you're doing above that is adding notes that are melodic and also harmonic.
Right.
So if I'm doing something like this, there's the bass, there's the melody, and then I can add some little inside stuff.
The question I have, when you have that bass line, it's steady all through the song, but you could cheat once in a while and the ear will just fill in.
Oh yeah, of course.
Right?
Oh yeah.
You drop it and you need to do something like the middle three strings, and the person listening will keep that bass going in their head, it seems like.
Well, it's the bass, but I think it's more just the rhythm. So if I'm doing like,
it's still there.
Yeah, so I'm keeping the flow going in what else I'm doing. So I'm locking into that rhythm, but it's not always about the bass. And yes, the ear fills in the gaps, as it were.
Which is why rhythm is still the most important thing in music, is keeping that rhythm.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then this is more of a patternistic, Matt. This is what I was talking about in more of the country western banjo-esque kind of style of fingerstyle picking, as opposed to the more piano style classical or flamenco.
Right.
There's just something about it that fascinates me. I mean, and it seems like there are things that are they're like, whether you're playing jazz, whether you're playing soul, R&B, rock and roll, the finger picking. It seems like there's a lot of things that are the same that go through there.
Well, you've got basically 4 fingers you're playing with and 6 strings. So there's only so many combinations of ways to put them together. And then the way the hand works, you tend to want to use the thumb on the lower strings, the fingers on the upper strings. So it kind of just like ergonomically. One thing like if you look at, say, Bela Fleck on banjo, right? Yeah. I saw him a few years ago, and I was amazed. I'm watching him play, and I'm going, he's just playing banjo technique, but he's adapted it to make it sound like it's all these other kinds of music. It's not just banjo playing anymore. But you watch his hand, you watch everything, go, hey, he's just playing banjo. Yeah, so it's more like adapting the technique to make it sound like different things, as opposed to changing the techniques all the time.
All right, silly question. What is more important, the right hand, the picking technique, or the left hand hitting the notes?
Okay.
Well, this is
a deep philosophical question.
Actually, it's not that philosophical.
Well, it is to a degree, because almost everyone learns their right hand to a certain point, and then they get hung up on the left hand, because it's seemingly the left hand is doing more. But it's not. It's just basically the left hand is a sophisticated clamp. It's picking notes out. This is your rhythm, your expression, your dynamics, your tone color. All this is the right hand. And most people only take it to a certain point, and then they kind of give up on it.
Yeah, it's hard to get, like I've seen Stan do it. I've tried to do a few things on YouTube. It's hard to get that so it's automatic and you don't have to think about it. And that's the point I'd like to get to. And I'm looking for exercises to help me
regardless of whether you're doing open hand style, hybrid picking with finger picks, or a flat pick, you got to be there on time.
That's what I mean.
And that's the part. And then if you are there on time, now the next question is tonality. I read an article with Leona Boyd, fabulous classical performer, and she had taken a lot of master classes, and they said, Leona, So what'd you learn in the master classes? She goes, what do you mean? You can't take master classes unless you already know how to play. What did you talk about? She goes, tone. Which finger to use on which note when I'm playing this piece to get the best tone. Segovia was a freaking fanatic. He would jump through hoops, whereas someone like Aaron Shearer, another fine classical teacher, would keep more into what guitarists refer to as position playing. Why jump for this note if you can get it right here? So Segovia said, no, the note doesn't sound right when it's over here. It only sounds right to me when it's over there. This is where the ear really starts going into craziness. But then, this is why they always say, the only good sounding guitar is being played by the good guitar player.
Well, to me, the reason I asked from my point of view is the hack player, okay? I'd like to get some exercises because there's nothing I like better. I don't care if it's on my porch or it's with friends in their garage drinking a beer or it's at home watching TV, sitting on my living room couch. This is what I'm pointing towards. This is the people that I'm talking to. And plus, you know, all the other, the great guitar players are looking and they're going, yeah, I knew that, you know. But I want to get the basic, you know, what is important, you know, I understand rhythm is important, I understand time is important. But right now, I'd like to be able to do this and not feel mildly retarded. You know what I mean? I'd like to. There's a Led Zeppelin song. You probably know the one I'm talking about, and I can't think of it.
Black Mountain Side?
No. It goes. He does it in A. Yes. That's it. God, that's, you know, that I've been farting around with that now for a couple of years, and I get frustrated because I know he'll do dun 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 and then dun 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 dun.
All right, what you're hearing is the illusion that happens in fingerpicking.
That's the thing.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
He's just playing a regular pattern, but it's also how you perceive of it. See, if I go like this and I play what you're hearing, that's not right. Because the top note I'm not sustaining. If I sustain the top note, what I do is I break it away from the bass part. You hear it as a separate line.
Right.
So if I start,
it's almost like you're taking something like time and you're transferring it over here to these. That's what, and to me, that catches the ear and you're like, God damn, that sounds good. I like the sound of it.
Yeah.
And he does it all during the song. Correct.
Well, he does get into a strumming part. Yeah, exactly. But other than that, yeah. And a little aside, that's the first thing he ever did with Robert Plant. When he met Robert Plant, he says, this is what I want to do, because that was a Joan Baez tune. And he said, this is what I want to do. I want to have this light thing and this dark thing and this heavy thing, and I want to go back and forth. And that was the beginning of what culminated basically in Stairway to Heaven and all that.
He does a couple of songs like that. What's the other one that he does? He takes a blues song and he wails it with rock and roll in the middle. Ramble On. Ramble On picks
Jimmy
up.
Page is a fabulous producer. That's what he did before.
He was also what? He was a studio guy.
You know.
I mean, this is pure classical, right? You know, that's just pure classical piece, and that's classical finger picking.
And he didn't write that.
No.
The band Spirit wrote that, and they were on tour, and he stole that section.
And it was
musicians are the biggest thieves ever. That's why there's nothing new. It's only been represented a different way. And the better the musician, the better it sells.
This, to me, is the very basic. You know, this is what my curiosity goes to, is that picking, that particular type of picking.
Well, I'd like to ask a question of Mark.
Okay.
I'd like to have you tell people, well, when you started with a flat pick. And I'd like to see, would you just tell people how you, how you pick now, as opposed to when you started?
Okay, I didn't start with a flat pick. Oh. I actually started with my thumb. I played everything like this.
Me too, that's what I do.
And then because I never took formal lessons until I went to music school, I was buying books. And this is the 60s, and at that time there were no rock books. The only thing you could get was folk books. And I was too young to realize the folk movement had just happened in the early 60s. So I've got Stefan Grossman books, Happy Traum books.
God, yeah.
You know,
That
all these
Grossman
things.
was a player, man.
Right. And so I started, and then I discovered Kicking Mule Records, which has had all this finger picking stuff where you could actually hear it, and they actually had tab that you could play it. It's like, wow, this is great. And so I was, you know, I was doing that kind of stuff and doing all this rag, and I got into ragtime because I really loved the way ragtime, it's kind of the meaning of classical.
Frankie and Johnny, there's an old picking thing that I've been working on for months and I can't
Did you
get.
ever get the clap down?
I mean, I can play it. I've got rough spots in the clap. So.
Just at the beginning of it, just more of a rag.
Oh, no, wow. No, I can't even think of it. I haven't thought of it for a while.
That's
sorry.
okay.
Yeah, sorry.
But
Thank
that's
you.
more of a ragtime
Oh, that's
style,
definitely
yeah.
a ragtime. But then he gets into all this other stuff that's very divorced from all that way of playing, which is kind of what's interesting about Steve Howe, because he brings a lot of different things together and merges it into a style that's like borrowing from classical and rock and folk and jazz.
I like the way you use the open string. That's the other thing I noticed about him. That part of that Stairway to Heaven thing, he takes this and he goes here, and they're all open.
Right.
But there's notes there's double notes in here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh definitely.
Yeah, and he uses that a lot.
Oh yeah.
In a lot of his
that's
songs.
well, that's one of the guitar. That's a guitar trick that guitarists and guitar can do that no other instrument really can do, which is ringing open strings up the neck, so that if you're playing up here.
I could do that all day if I could do it.
So now, you got into the folk end of it.
Yeah, so I got into the folk end of it, and basically then I went to music school, and they stuck a pick in my hand, and that was the next 20 years.
Lovely Bill Levitt, huh?
Yes, exactly. So I basically, they tried to get you to play all this classical music.
May I interject? Bill Levitt, when he was in charge of the guitar department at Berkeley, would not allow you to use hand style. It would make you use a flat pick to play classical.
Correct. Yes.
I wonder why.
Because
Is it a personal prejudice? Or?
I don't know, because he started as a lap player. He wasn't a guitar player.
A lap steel. So
lap steel.
He used the thumb pick then.
Yeah.
And the finger picks.
Yeah, and mostly he was a rhythm player. He wasn't really a lead player. So
yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, when I did my recital, I played one piece all fingerstyle, and I had to justify it why I wanted to play it all fingerstyle.
I remember Cliff took it.
There was that like a thesis, similar to a thesis in college.
Well, the recital was basically part of the graduation requirements was I had to play an hour-long recital. Half of it was solo pieces, half of it was with a band, and
He was a performance major.
Yeah.
So that was a
that's a requirement of performance.
Was it
major.
all classical?
Oh no, this was Berkeley's jazz mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to do it all.
Yeah. So, and there's, classical was a little side issue at that place. It's more like rock and jazz was what it was all about.
Since then, New England Conservatory has kind of merged a little with Berkeley, so now you can kind of get both guitars and traditional. So anyway, back to the folk, and now you got the flat pick.
So now I got the flat pick.
Do you want to change guitars?
Well, we can. Yeah. Why don't we start going to get away from this baby?
So you got a stand back there?
No, I got one
right here, but
no, he's got to stand.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so now this is my jazz guitar. We don't need this anymore. And so now when I started playing this, I went through a little period where I did try to play this when I first got out of school, all fingerstyle. But I was married to the idea of playing lead lines with single note stuff with a pick. I just couldn't get away from that. And so then I just kind of went back to just playing with a pick a lot, and then I started studying with a teacher a couple of years after that. Got me into the hybrid stuff, as Stan was talking about last week, hybrid picking back at, where you're using fingerstyle and pick.
What was that they talked about, claw and hammer? I'm not getting it right.
Yeah, claw hammer. I think it's just basically a picking.
It's almost like you're grabbing like this. Yeah.
So I basically, kind of dabbled with going back and forth. I got serious about classical music, though, in the mid-'90s. And once I got serious about classical, I really started to study how to use your fingers, how to use your nails, all this stuff. I got very, very caught up in that. And then after I got caught up in that, I started applying it to my electric guitar. Mm-hmm. So now I realized, that I can play. play that kind
Well,
of stuff.
what I really want to show the people is how you now alternate pick.
Right.
As opposed now, first of all, let's talk about alternate picking. Alternate picking is a down-up motion, usually associated with the way the beats flow in the measure. The downstroke being a stronger stroke than the upstroke. So when you're playing couplings like eighth notes, where it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. All the and beats are the upstroke because they are the weak beats.
Well, it gives you more. It gives you more opportunity for more notes.
Right.
Well, you speed. Yeah, that's
and,
why.
And it's
but-
an efficiency. It's
Efficiency,
you're
yes.
doubling your speed, because now.
Who was that guy?
It's like double tonguing or triple tonguing if you're a trumpet player.
Vince Gill. I watched Alvin Lee, was it, or
Yeah.
Albert Lee?
Oh,
No,
yeah.
there was
They-
Albert Lee, but there was Alvin
they
Lee
would
too.
start up here and they go right down the scale.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Doc
Yeah.
Watson.
Doc
he was
Watson is
a
another one.
famous flat picker. But I just never got to that level with flat picking. I was always so basically I started to develop this technique when I got into a duo
Now,
actually.
could you just show your hand doing
So
it?
what I'm doing is I'm using my thumb, and I call that my downstroke, and I got my index finger and calling my upstroke. And if you look at it, that's almost like I'm playing with a pick.
Right.
I do let my fingers help me a little bit. Now I got to tell you, this came out of necessity because I was playing with a bass player and realizing that I wanted to be able to transfer from playing single note stuffs to chords very quickly because I had to because there was not enough music going on.
It almost has a little taste of a Spanish flair to it.
Yeah. So I can go back and forth from the techniques a lot easier that way. Now I spent a lot of time just doing this on open strings. Just go back and forth and spend, and I got to spend even up to like 2 minutes a day on each string just open, just doing this. And at first, just like you were saying earlier, about tone first. It's not about speed. It's about trying to get the steadiness clear and as even as you can between
Something you
the
can recognize as a note.
Yeah,
Now,
exactly.
Not a
flat picking guitar players that stay with a flat pick and they forgot their flat pick, they do a similar thing except they don't move their
Yeah,
fingers.
they kind of-
they pretend they have a pick.
Yeah, right. Yep. Now I will say if the music gets slow, I just go down to my thumb, like Wes Montgomery. So I can do this whole strumming thing, and I do like the sound of the thumb because it's a mellower sound. As like
Well,
that's my
that was Wes's technique, especially
I like that.
Yeah.
Myself.
flop up some octaves there for
Yeah.
get a little Wes going here. Wes Montgomery being well known for his octave work.
Yeah. Now the other way I strum is with my index finger, which I got more or less from James Taylor.
You thief, you.
I know. That's what we do. We steal.
that's-
You steal like
that's-
crazy. You steal like crazy. Yeah, that's exactly. He's right. Yeah.
Now, there are certain, like I said, that I don't want to say categories, but methods of alternate picking. You haven't mentioned. There's one where it's a.
All right. So let me talk to you about that because I teach this a lot. What I realized a long time ago is finger picking when you're doing the alternating bass is very simple. You basically are doing things together or apart. And what you're doing is being guided by the thumb. The thumb's got the steady part. And what you're doing is you're either pinching with the thumb or playing in between. And that's it. Everything else just gets more and more complicated versions of that. So if you can understand how to basically relate with the alternating thing and just start and do some very
That
simple.
is so important to keep that going in the background.
Right, so-
I like to do it so I didn't even have to think about it.
So here's the best one I found is you take a G chord. You can hold a finger picking G chord to me is this note right here. Because you're basically going back and forth between these two strings. And basically the guitar is tuned to G, so you can add all these other notes. So basically you can run the scale above it. Right, and that's what I used to practice that for hours and hours and hours, where I just would try to make things up, and you sit there and you get on one string, you use one finger.
I like the way you're doing the pinch.
Yeah, and the pit. Now, the other thing too. This is actually what I found was very important and changed my life. Is when I'm playing, I'm trying to get my fingers to be like this.
Right.
Basically above the string I'm playing on. So what I found is it's almost like making a fist. And the best metaphor I found is, or analogy is, it's like scratching. That if you're scratching the strings, you're actually doing it right. It's not about, you're not plucking the strings.
Not banging, unless you really, and it's part of what you want, but not banging.
Well, you don't need to, because you can always get the force out of it. But you're actually trying to get your finger to move like this, right, from the knuckle. You're not trying to do this. And here's the difference. If you try to do this for a while, right, your forearm gets tired.
Right.
Do this. You can do this forever. The curly thing, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is this is what finger picking is. It's not this. Everyone thinks this is finger picking at first. That's plucking. This is finger picking. So it's kind of like waving, or like I said, scratching. And then also another interesting thing that I found out about picking is that the finger comes to the string before you play it. It's actually a three-part motion. Your finger comes to the string, presses on it, and release. It's not, you're not swinging at the string and hoping you hit it as you go by.
Right.
So if you watch me, you'll see my fingers are always going into the.
And the importance of scales. Now, that last walk down you were doing, was that in the scale in G?
Yeah. Well, basically, one thing I've learned over the years too is to work on technique. I like to use theory instead of songs a lot of times. Mm-hmm. So I'll come up with, say, like that. I'll say, okay, I'm going to play a G chord, and I'm going to put a G scale above it, as opposed to playing a song. Then I can kind of change it around and work on different aspects of what I want to do rhythmically or melodically, and not be locked into the way someone else thought about it.
Right.
So like one thing would be to say, like, all right, I'll play. You know, like this would be a great place to start. You play whole notes, right?
Open, down, you're walking down the scale.
Yeah, I'm just walking down the scale.
It's almost a chromatic exercise.
Yeah, well,
with pinching.
Yeah, but then you could do.
When you hit the particular notes, you're doing the bass too. You're going.
Oh yeah, the bass is. But I'm also trying to hear. The other thing I'm trying to hear it as separate parts, so that this is happening on its own. So that top part doesn't disrupt what's happening underneath it, that this is just flowing along.
Sounds like it was made to be that way, to me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You know, now another, so I sit there and do that a lot, but another thing that I like to do is I like to play on single strings, a la my Keep It Simple shirt.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. So I got a teacher that got me into playing up and down, being more linear, and so I would do stuff like this. You know, and then I always called it my bad classical music. And then
to you, I mean, it sounds that way to you. To me, it sounds Spanish.
How does Mick Goodrick feel about that term?
What?
How does Mick Goodrick feel about that term?
I mean, this is, if I want to do a little Spanish flair, I use this. I use that scale.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one I like.
The Phrygian scale, sure. Yep.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's an exercise I do, and the alternate, I go down, walk it, and the little one here.
Yeah. See, he just did a mode and didn't even know it.
Yeah, I didn't even know it.
Yeah,
and didn't even show it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, that's like all these different ways of combining it. Now you can, like with that, you could punctuate with the thumb, like.
And you could pop that up to G on your thumb, or
Oh yeah. Right? Or you can work on trying to keep a steady rhythm going when you're doing that.
That to me, that's you know, to build a base, a foundation, when you want to go on in picking. Mm-hmm. To me, it just seems like the most important thing is keeping that steady base going.
Well, you would say that, but then you got someone like a James Taylor.
Yeah.
Right, where you go. right? So it's not
So
as
the
steady.
bass, the bass was what, inferred?
It's punctuating. It's coming in different places. It's not coming as just a steady
Yeah, it's not a
quarter
steady-
note or half note thing. And that's really kind of what James Taylor started to bring to the whole folk
Well, that's
movement.
almost like there's
Well,
an
so
acting illusion of that. Less is more.
Well, it's,
Yeah.
it's also a choice of drive or smoothness. When you listen to James, everything's just kind of going smooth. You're feeling one, but you're not hitting one.
All right.
You follow me like a drummer
God,
would.
we're gonna have to do another one on pick. I mean, this is our second show, and we're gonna need another at least hour. So, if you would, Mark, I'd like to thank Mark Armstrong for
Well,
coming.
let's have him demo a couple of.
That's what I was gonna do.
Oh,
I was
okay.
gonna ask him to pick us out.
Okay.
If you would, Mark.
Well, we got plenty of time. We still have
2 minutes.
So that's a Lindsey Buckingham piece.
Yeah, what was that? The second one when you went up with the two fingers, it was it looked like a E major, and then you moved it up.
Yeah, it's
What is that when you go up?
The thing is that with that song, it's more you just got a bass line and a melody, and it's not as chordally related as a lot of other songs.
Would you mind doing Icarus?
Okay, sure, yeah.
Lovely.
Yep.
Let's see. What's another one?
What's 1 in 30 seconds? Bourrée. Do
Bourrée.
Bourrée for 30
Oh,
seconds.
how about this?
Okay, I'm officially depressed now. All right? I am never going to be able to play like that. I don't care if I lived to 96,
Well,
but I'm going to give it a hell of a try.
Thank Mark and welcome
Thank you,
him.
Mark
for
Armstrong.
Hopefully he'll come back again
Yeah.
for us.
Guy, I hope so, Mark.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No
and
problem.
I hope to see you guys next week. This is getting good.